Alright, FishAholics, welcome back. We just dropped the kayak in the water and we're going to be doing some more exploring today. We're between the St. Lucie Inlet right now and Jupiter, Florida, and we're going to be fishing the Intercoastal by kayak. I've never been here, just saw it on the map. It looked really good, so I want to give it a shot. I really don't know what's in store, and I think that's the beauty of it. So let's hop in the kayak, get out there, see if we can make it happen. So it's about 12 o'clock and we packed fairly light, only one dark matter, spinning rod, 4000 shield. We got a cooler full of some waters, PB&J, got a knife just in case we want to keep some fish for the table. And we've just got, some Berkley gulp, some soft plastics, and a bunch of different hard baits and bigger swim baits. And I would say this is keeping it simple enough so that we could go out and kind of be ready for a little bit of everything and fish till about dusk. I think, of course, we're gonna start targeting snook, and as the day goes on and progresses, if we end up finding any kind of fish and getting on any kind of bite, that'll be a plus. So I don't really know what we'll catch, but snook is definitely our priority. But there could be sheep's head, drum back in here, trout. So if you hear my voice muffled, that's because the buff is going on. Today was supposed to be a cloudy, overcast day, but surprisingly, it's turning into a beautiful day. It's getting real nice out here. So I'm a northern guy. I'm not trying to get, burnt to a lobster out here. We're gonna stay protected, have fun, catch some fish. This looks like a great place to start. Little mangrove cove here, and then it goes out to this point, and then down a little bit where we're gonna end up. It looks like there's like some type of salt pond. So we're gonna work down to there and check it out, but definitely got to fish this good looking water. And we've got about 2-3 hours left of the outgoing, so that'll hopefully pull out some fish from this structure. Pretty shallow in here, only 2 feet, but that's plenty of water for a snook or something. We just spooked a fish right there. All right, making a lure change. Let's try this little Rapala X-Wrap, and we'll either troll it or cast it up in the shallow water. All right, nothing on the X-Wrap, but I don't know, we might leave it on. There's a little splash, and we got to this little creek now that leads back to the salt pond. All right, we threw on a little live target, Menhaden swim bait. Let's see if any snook or fish up in here find this appetizing. Oh, just got hit right there. I don't think that was a snook. I think that was a tarpon, a small tarpon. I don't know what that was. Sitting right underneath that mangrove bush. That's a good sign though. There's fish back in here. All right guys, not a whole lot going on, but we're almost through the creek and the shade feels amazing. It feels like it's 10-15 degrees hotter in this little creek. Looks like there's at least some wind on the salt pond there, so that could be pretty cool. I was actually also gonna switch the live target off to something slower like a DOA shrimp or a Berkley gulp shrimp, but I'm thinking since we only have a little bit left of the creek, we'll leave this on for now, and then maybe by the time we hit the pond and then come back through the creek, the tide will swing around, and then on our way out on the incoming tide, maybe we'll switch to something slower if we don't get anything on this up in the salt pond. Maybe the tide's not right. Maybe that's why we're not seeing a whole lot of action. We did have one bite. It could have been a snook or a tarpon, and then I did see one small sheep's head, and since the tide is pretty low. You can see I'm seeing some crabs up in there. We probably could catch some crabs and maybe catch some sheep. And then we're gonna eat our PB and jelly sandwich in the meantime. It's about 2 o'clock. All right, here's the salt pond. We made it. Looks good. A lot of wind whipping down it. A little windier than I thought it was gonna be. There's a fish. Holy moly. Oh my gosh. Get in here. Crazy fish, man. And he just broke the line too. Absolutely choked it. That was so surprising. I casted it up onto the mangroves, and then as the wind was blowing the kayak down, I kind of just drifted out and I was pulling the bait. This guy just crushed it. Jumped so high when I pulled on him, he flew over the kayak. All right, there's fish back in here. Sweet. All right, we fished the live target for an additional 30 minutes without any bites, so we're gonna switch it up and start throwing around this Berkeley Gulp shrimp in New Penny. This water is real shallow back on this end of the pond, so I'm thinking this might work a little better and we can cast it farther and work it slower and not spook any fish. There might be a whole lot more fish back in here than I realize, even though it's, you know, a max depth of like 2 feet, and then it gets as skinny as like 5-6 inches. There's a fish. They like the shrimp. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. 5 minutes fishing the shrimp. Got our first fish already. They don't know when to let go. We just gotta see if we can find a bigger one. No freaking way. Fish on already. That's a little one. Gotta find one 5-6 times that size. But they're liking the shrimp. There's another one. Jeez, I think we found what they like in here. It's crazy how quick they eat it. As soon as you let it sink down, they just hit it right on the drop, and then they start swimming away with it. All right, this is pretty sweet. We're finding some consistency and learning a little bit of something. They like the shrimp for sure. We've been throwing the shrimp for like 10 minutes and caught 3. And when we first got into the pond, this is the first bank that we hit, and we caught that one on the live target. Then we went further up into the pond, didn't catch anything. It was real shallow, so then we turned back around and we fished this side of the pond, but didn't get anything over there. And what I did notice, the difference is over there it gets to like 4 or 5 inches real shallow from like 3.5 feet in the middle, and then on this side it goes from like 3.5 feet in the middle up to about like 2.5 feet right up in those mangroves. And I think those fish are liking that on this part of the tide because how low the tide is, so they might concentrate over in this section. So we're gonna keep throwing the shrimp around, but we've got to explore some more because we've only fished probably 10% of this salt pond and probably have another 90% left. and I would love to be able to come back here and have an idea of a few different spots to fish that hold fish. And we actually did go that way when we first came in, but it got real shallow real quick, so we just turned around and came this way. But I think we got to go up there and explore it, and then, you know, after that we'll go back towards the creek and throw that shrimp in the creek, because I think the creek is gonna be loaded with fish once you have the right presentation throwing it up in there. And they might even have the biggest fish. We did have one bite in there, and from the silhouette of what I saw, I thought it was either a tarpon or it could have been a decent sized snook. So we're gonna definitely have to get back up in there and give it another shot on our way out. But enough talking, let's give it like 10 minutes here and then start exploring again. All right, this looks similar on this end of the pond. It's like 3 feet out there and then like 2.5, 2 feet right along the mangroves. We'll at least give it like 30 minutes and then go back to the creek. Oh, look at that little pocket. Boom. All right, that's about 30 minutes we tried up in this end of the pond. Worked all the way up here into this calm little pocket, and I just saw a sheep's head up in there, but it was small. And we didn't have a whole lot of bites except for little stuff. And it's really whipping out there on the main part of the pond. That's why I came way up in here thinking it'd be calmer, we could catch a fish. But the tide is really high right now, so I'm thinking maybe we're not getting any bites from the snook because the water is up there in the mangroves pretty far, and that's where the fish are. Good amount of current flowing in here now. The sun is shining right down this creek. There's one. Hey. Get in the boat. I'm not sure what this is. It's not a redfish, a kingfish maybe? Oh gosh. Hey, something though. Got a fish in the creek. Ew. All right, we just made it through the creek. That was a challenge. A lot of current, and the water was real high. Definitely we have to make a note that we should fish here when the water is at its lowest point, so the end of the ebb, beginning of the flood, which we did fish here today around that time. But I think when we were going through the creek before and we were throwing the live target, it may have not have been the best option. We probably should have threw the shrimp, but there was no way to really know that except for coming out here and fishing like we did. So we gave it a shot and we learned something. We figured it out. Now we got probably about 45 minutes left in daylight. Got some cloud cover that just moved over us here. The sun is going down though, so we're gonna start working our way back to the launch. And I think if we still have some daylight left by the time we get around that area, there was a good looking seawall or some dock structures that we could fish maybe for one last minute biter. We'll try it. So our wind is picking up. Feels like rain, looks like rain, but I hope it doesn't rain. If it does, then we'll probably just go straight back to the launch. If it doesn't, then we'll stick it out and see if we can get on a dusk bite along some structure. There's a fish. Oh, same thing that we caught before. He's croaking. Definitely in the drum family. Sorry, buddy. All right, we just paddled real hard for like 15 minutes. We launched over there. We came from about, I guess, a mile down current against the wind, and now we're back up here. I was gonna go to a seawall on a point up there and then kind of work this cove and then around these docks and then inside another cove, but being that it's so windy, it's getting later, we're just gonna hit this cove on the inside of this dock and then work our way back to the launch. Damn, look how fast this wind is pushing me. We're cruising. The mullets are jumping. But are there any snook here? All right, I think that's about it. We're back at the launch. All right, guys, so I think that is a wrap. We're gonna get out of here and grab a bite to eat. I am starving. One peanut butter and jelly sandwich out there for 6 to 8 hours in the kayak was definitely not enough. I should have known better. And that was a workout to get back to the launch. That wind picked up a ton. I mean, it could have been blowing real hard the entire time we were out, or it picked up when we were out there. I mean, it was hard to tell because we were back in that creek and we were in that little salt pond. But it was cool. We learned something today, caught some fish, which doesn't happen every time we go out and explore new waters. I would say like 50%, probably like 75% of the time I'll get skunked fishing new waters for sure. And then the other 25%, we actually end up catching fish and making a video that you guys end up seeing. So definitely a good outing, and the knowledge is priceless that we learned today. Only something that you can learn by putting time on the water, or having a guy like me tell you about it. But definitely fishing around the mangroves and having some lower water around the lower level periods helps with catching fish, just so you can pitch your bait up into the structure there. And, we did see some small sheep's head in the creek and as well as in the salt pond. And I'm sure that in the intercoastal, there's probably a lot more sheep's head and bigger sheep's head. So maybe for another outing on another day in this same area, we could bring some crabs or some clams or some shrimp for sheep's head. And when the water is at a higher level, we'll fish for them. And then when it goes to a lower level, we'll switch and fish for snooks. And then we could fish an entire tide and possibly get on 2 separate bites, which could be pretty sweet. But anyway, I'm going to close it out here. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check out the FishAholic merch, subscribe, and like always, never forget, live to fish, fish to live, and I'll see you guys in the next one.